Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick, spiritual life coach and your host of Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. What is the awakening? This is the moment in time when humanity rises up out of the darkness. Who is awakening? Each one of us present on earth today, reclaiming our sovereignty, seeking greater possibilities in our reality and looking for solutions. We know being awakened is not a lofty ideal, but a necessity. If we can transform ourselves, we can change the world. Guests on Her Conversations will speak to your spirituality, sensuality and soul. Listen to their stories and hear how they are in service to the world. Let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. My guest on this week's episode is Louise Danielle, teacher of Superconscious self-creation and identity transformation. She works with entrepreneurs, helping them create the success they desire. During our conversation, Louise shares about her awakening and the rewriting of her beliefs and recreating her life. We also talk about the myth that most people believe, that we are broken and we need fixing, and how that actually keeps us stuck in fixing mode. So as always, I begin by asking my guests, HER is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel that higher energetic resonance?
Oh, I love that question. For me, it's when I'm present and focused. You know, there's moments where I get caught up in my thinking, in the everyday of life, and those moments I get to take a pause. I call it moments of touch and magic, where you almost like fall out of yourself and into this expansive space of possibility and creation, where you just feel expanded, love, peace. And I think, you know, a lot of people talk about flow, like they enter the flow state. And to me, like that's what that's about, when you're not in the stories and ideas and beliefs and character that you've created of yourself, and you're just in a present moment of higher resonance, ultimately.
Every time I ask that question, I'm so grateful that I got given that idea, and it's just been running for so long, because it really does set a mood, you know, and because everyone's answer is different, and yet there's just there's a synergy in all of it. There's a similarity in all of it, and everyone understands the question even.
Sometimes, like the idea of you know, being in higher resonance or flow, it can seem like this magical, unattainable place, but actually it's like moments when you're in the shower and you have a bit of inspiration, or you're out for a walk, or you just have a moment of connecting with nature, or, you know, really seeing and being in the landscape of where you are. Like that, those are those moments. And I think we can sometimes almost not notice how many of those opportunities that we have to experience that.
Yeah, it's totally that. It's not complicated at all. So before we go forward, Louise, before we go into the meat of our conversation, which I know is going to be amazing, can you just introduce yourself and tell a little bit about your story and how you got to doing the amazing work that you're doing right now?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. So, you know, I've been on quite a journey over the last 15 years. I've been in this space of personal growth and transformation. My journey really started when I was in my youth. I had not a great experience growing up, and a lot of inner turmoil that I experienced in terms of, you know, in a nutshell, I had an idea about myself. I hated myself. I hated the world. I believed that the world hated me, and was very much in a depressed, anxious mindset, and really was not enjoying my experience of life. And my world reflected that, very much reflected that. And I found myself in the care system. I found myself literally living on the back streets of London and experiencing in the external world a reflection of what was on my internal world, obviously not knowing that was the case at the time. And then one day I had a really powerful insight, and it was like something moved through me, and it was the thought of, your life doesn't have to be this way. Like, life really doesn't have to be this way. And there was something about that moment of insight that woke me up to, oh my gosh, yeah, what, like it snapped me out of the thought storm that I'd been living in and creating. And from that moment on, I kind of set about making different choices, and realizing that actually, yeah, it doesn't. There are choices, there are options. And as I kind of moved through that journey of really discovering why it was I was experiencing the experience of life that I had been living in for so long, that I just wanted a feeling of love, that I didn't believe that I belonged, that I was taking other people's emotions and ideas and stories and taking them on as my own. And I could really see that, wow, so many people are experiencing suffering in their lives because they're believing their thinking is true, and they're believing their thinking is who they are, and they don't actually know the magic and the miracle of who it is they truly are. And so I was shown that giving that gift, really, I call it. And then from there, I decided in my naivety that I was going to change the world and help all young people and stop suffering and all of that jazz. And so I set out on a mission, really, to create an organization that would prevent people from experiencing the suffering that I did for many years. And I quickly built an organization in the space of 3 years, generated over £800,000, trained hundreds of volunteers as mentors. We went into schools, created drop-in centers, was invited to St. James's Palace, loads of kind of, awards and recognition for the work. And it was during that period of time that, as I was in that process of creation, that I was following my own intuition and fell into the world of personal development and coaching and law of attraction. And so much of it was like, oh, wow, yeah, this is some of the stuff that I was doing when I transformed my own life. This is some of the things that I was pointing to. And it also it opened up a whole new world of possibility and kind of gave me an instruction manual to my brain, really, and to the experience of life. And so from there, I then fell into the world of coaching and mentoring and training. And so then grew what I do now, which is an online coaching and training business, working with people all over the world to help them create change and transformation in their life, mainly in the areas of seeing the limitations and obstacles that are preventing them from creating what it is that they really want.
Oh, good. I love that. And you know what, the thing that stuck out to me, and I think the thing that sometimes we think of as a negative is, like you're saying, like, in my naive state I went into this, but like what you want to do is you want to go into something not knowing, not having any limitations, not having the knowledge of all the things that could possibly go wrong, or all the reasons why you shouldn't start it in the first place. It's that naivety that actually was the impetus for you to go, like, yeah, of course, why don't I just go for it? Whereas if you'd have thought about it, or maybe if you'd have asked somebody who was maybe a bit more experienced or had no experience at all, would tell you all the reasons that it couldn't happen. So I mean, what do you feel about that? I know you say, like, yeah, I was naive, but naivety is the best route sometimes.
Yeah, naivety was my biggest asset. So I had that social enterprise that I created, and I had no clue what to do. So the only guidance I had was my inner guidance. And I really strongly followed that because there wasn't any other guidance. And so it led me to listen to not what you should do, but what it was that I was guided to do. And exactly the same thing happened when I transitioned to running an online business. So this was back in 2014, and coaching, like online coaching and the online world was really fairly new, to be honest. And again, it was like I found myself in a business program. It was the only kind of one that was, really quite well known. And I didn't know what you were supposed to do to create an online business. So I, again, did what I was guided to do and showed up really powerfully and served, and was able to fill a coaching practice and book out my business within the first 3 months. And naivety was my biggest asset. And it makes sense now as to why that was the case, because I had no stories of how it's meant to be. I had no stories of what success looks like. I had nobody else's one size fits all blueprint that I was meant to follow. And trying to fit myself into a box in order to do it. And I have experienced the opposite of that. I've been in business for, like I say, 15 years now. And there has been times where I've purchased like how-to programs and found myself spiraling more into a space of self-doubt and not in that flow state, because I've been trying to fit myself into a model of how I've been told it should be, as opposed to listening to that inner wisdom and guidance. And there are some strategies and some things that are great to be able to help you expand in certain directions, but it's like when you have no idea of a should, you're in a space of possibility, and that possibility and that's the space of creation. It gives room for inspired wisdom to come through, and you're not in comparison. You're not in the stories and the ideas and the noise inside of your head so much. So, I really was in both instances just following the wisdom and the guidance, and there was no idea of, oh, this would mean it would be failure, or this would mean it would be success. It was like, this is what I would love to create. Now, what would you have me do? And that moving towards that inspired wisdom. And some things didn't work out, but it was like twice I've seen the possibility and been able to create what could be classed as successful organizations that made a massive difference in people's lives by following my own inner guidance first.
Oh, I just like 100% clap, hands down, everything. Because I'm just so about that. If I see as well, especially over the past couple of months, how I've been like pivoting and changing what I'm doing, all of it has just come from, And even like a couple of days ago, I got asked to like do a presentation in a month or so. And I kind of said yes, knowing that, yeah, like I can write to that. And then I was like, what the hell am I going to say? And then this morning I woke up and it's like, this is what you're going to do, literally writing the thing down and just being fed the whole idea. And it's like you're saying, when you're open to the idea, when you stay in that, what would you have me do? You almost go to bed thinking, I've got this thing on my, I need to do it. I know I've got a few weeks to deal with it, but I don't want to leave it till the last minute. So I'm in panic mode. And it just all comes through and you're like, this is almost too easy. It's like people need to, like, more people really need to understand that being open will give you what you need. And also, like, there are, like you say, there are courses, there are mentors, there are coaches out there to guide you. But even in that, you need to be open to be able to feel into the person who's got the right information for you, because you can go down the wrong path. And anyone who's been online or been in the space will have bought multiple courses and invested in many people and not really felt into what they could offer, just kind of heard what their spiel was and then been burnt, financially and pride-wise and everything like that. So it's a moment of just allowing yourself to be led. And I think there's a real shift that people are kind of realizing that is the way to go. I mean, what are you seeing on your side?
Yeah. 100%. We're born into a world where we're conditioned to believe that who we are is not good enough, that we don't know enough, that ultimately, like I say, that not enoughness. And we're conditioned to see ourselves that way throughout our entire lives. And this idea of somebody else knows what I need to do, somebody else knows what's best for me, somebody else has the missing key and the missing secret to what it is that I need because I'm not good enough. And so many people get caught up in these cycles of I'm not good enough, I can't create what I want, oh, that person has the magic gift, the magic answer for me, let me go and buy their thing. And then they buy their thing and we can't implement the strategy because it doesn't feel aligned to us, or we do implement the strategy and it doesn't get the same result. So it reinforces the idea that who I am is not enough. So, oh my gosh, I better go and buy the thing and find, I need to fix and change myself. And I've seen people who spend years in this cycle of seeking and searching, looking for the answers outside of them because who they think they are is not enough. And every single time we do that, we give away our power, we give away our energy. We're reinforcing to ourselves that we don't know, that we're not powerful, that we're not the creators, that we don't have the wisdom and that we don't have the guidance. And like I say, yes, strategies and courses and programs and working with mentors is an amazing thing to do. But like you said, it's like coming from that initial place first of we create our experience of the world from the inside out. Yet we are conditioned to constantly look outside of ourselves for the answers. And the magic is always, always within. Now, it can take a little bit of practice to allow yourself to get still, to allow yourself to hear yourself again. But it's like building a muscle, your power is always moving through you. You are always being guided. And the more you learn to tap into that, the more synchronicities you experience, the more life begins to unfold in a really congruent, powerful way. And I think particularly the era that we're going into now with AI and all of the fuss around that, it's not going away, it's going to get bigger. And more there is a shift towards people want that authenticity. People want real people. And in order for you to powerfully move through this next phase of creation, your biggest asset is awakening to your own power as a phenomenal creator, because you are always co-creating your experience of reality. All of the courses that didn't work out for you, you were co-creating that. Everything that did work out for you, you were co-creating that. And, it's so vital to really learn to turn within in order to then create externally first, whereas we're conditioned to look to the thing on the outside, whereas the magic is always within first.
No, I hear you. How's that working out for most people? But what you said about AI as well, and I'm just like a staunch voice on this as well, like, not in the world, but like with people who I speak to about this, is I see the benefit of technology, because technology has allowed me to work and travel, so I'm not down on technology, but this next step here is going to require a lot, like 100% discernment, so that you'll be able to then co-create with the technology, as opposed to have the technology just like, or acquiesce all of your creativity to technology, because you don't know who's programming the technology, to the point that the technology becomes so sentient that it starts to program you back. We're on a really fine line where it can be amazing, but it could be the last moment that you have any touch with your intuition, with your higher self, with your guidance, God, creator, whichever way or whatever way you want to call it. And in particular, the younger generation that are just born into technology, because I can still remember when none of this was a thing, to have all of this stuff. So I built my own intuition, my own connection, and my own creativity. But there are those that don't, who just think, oh, I'll just go and put a few keywords in and press a button, and it's going to shoot out an amazing SEO perfect piece of content that will drive everyone to me, which is cool. But then where are you in the whole thing? And especially within the coaching industry, because I'm seeing a lot of people also within the spiritual community, within the kind of coaching and mentoring, who are talking about how, Chat GPT and the other ones can actually come in and like do a lot of work for you. I'm like, are you going to allow it to write your entire program? Is that a good thing? What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, some really great points there. And I think it always comes back to this space of creation first, of who is it that I truly am? What is it that I would love to create? And then what tools are available that allow me to expand into the creation of that, as opposed to, I don't know enough, I don't have to create content, I don't have to create a program, I don't have to do this. There's a piece of technology that knows better than I do, so I'm going to use that. Because again, we're reinforcing that cycle of this is the thing that knows best. This is the thing that I need to go to. And again, we're training ourselves unconsciously to look to the thing outside of us and what happens to our own internal power. Again, we're giving it away, we're giving it away, we're giving it away. And the more that we do that, the less we feel connected to ourselves. So, personally, I'm kind of, there is that fine line in terms of the AI technology that is available, but everything can be a resource and an asset if you are turning into your biggest resource first, which is your own power, your own creative abilities, and then using that to expand and create and, allow you to do what it is that you want to do from a place of ease and expansion, as opposed to, I can't, I'm not enough, let me use this thing to do it for me.
Got you. I'm with you on that. And I also wanted to talk about, if you're seeing or feeling or sensing a shift within the personal development and wellness space, in that the conversation about how we help people is shifting. And I think it's not kind of, maybe it's not hit like the major names yet, but I'm really noticing more of a shift on the way that people are looking at things. Like, for instance, if I use my life as an example, I've spent a lifetime reading all the books, doing all the courses, doing all the things. And yeah, they help to a certain extent, but they also then only really get you so far. And you know, I was, like I said, I was watching one of your videos earlier when you were talking about affirmations, which over the past like 15, 20 years have been like a big major thing of like printing out affirmations and sticking them all over the wall and like chanting them, you know, like saying money flows to me abundantly. And you're sitting there going, yeah, but I'm not going to look at that minus 50 pound that I've got in my, you know, the fact that I'm overdrawn, no money is flowing to me, you know, and you're trying to recreate your reality by just saying things. And you shifted it around and said it's not an affirmation, you've got to make it a declaration. Can you just explain more where you're coming from with that point?
Yeah, of course. So there's so many things in what you said. I love this conversation. So our word is our wand. You know, our word creates. And when most people learn affirmations, they look at the affirmation as the thing that's going to create. And it's always coming back to, it's not about what you do, it's about who you are. Who you are, how you see yourself, your identity, your way of being, that's the thing that creates. And so we've been taught that in order to create this magical statement that we need to stick up everywhere, repeating that, that's the thing that's going to create for us, you know, but it's not. It's like we are the co-creators, and the power of language, the power of words, you know, that's how we birthed our world, through language. We communicate through language, we create through language, both externally and internally. And so what often happens is, from a law of attraction perspective, people are told, oh, do all these affirmations, and you're saying these sentences, believing that the sentences are creating. And as you're saying, like, I am a millionaire, there's a part of you unconsciously that's in disalignment, that's not in alignment with your identity. And so whenever you say that, part of you, either physically, you'll feel a sensation that's out of alignment with that, or you'll hear, no, you're not, that's not true, that's not who you are. And so every time you try and reinforce that, you're also awakening by association the idea that you are not that. And so if we're again, this is about looking, where are we looking to create? If we're looking to the external thing, like the affirmation, that thing is going to create what I want. Again, where are you putting your power as a creator? You're putting it outside of yourself. And the difference between affirmations, so we say affirmations and we try and live into them to almost try and trick ourselves to believe that that thing is true. But you know, our brains are not stupid. You know, like consciously, subconsciously, like it's all, we're programming and living in a world where it knows its stuff. It doesn't always know what is real and what is false, but you know, it's like our world is always being created. And so the difference between an affirmation and a declaration is very similar, can be very similar to the creation of an affirmation. But the difference is you are creating a declaration of something that you want to step into and declare to be true in that specific moment in time. So it's not something that you're saying and repeating that you want to, trick yourself into believing. What you are saying is, right here and right now, I have the ability to experience anything within my being, within my system, within my body. We have the ability to experience any kind of emotion, any kind of experience. Like everything that we have, we only ever experience it internally. Every single thing, we have an internal experience of it. That's how we have the thing. And so a declaration is about saying, this is a new way of being that I am declaring that I am committed to, or this is a new thing that I am declaring that I want to create in my world. And we create a powerful statement around that through our speaking, the power that we have to create. And in that moment of being with that declaration, we are saying that I am committed to creating £1 million business. And in the moment of that declaration, every part of your being, every part of your mind is in alignment with feeling that as if it is true. In that moment, not that I need to believe that and be that all day, every day. And it's like, we're not creating any conflict. What we're saying is, right here, right now, I am declaring this is an experience of I am. And that's it. Because how often do you fully feel the power or the presence of that experience, of the thing that you want to create? And the more that we do that, that feels real and true to us. Our power is there in that moment. There's no cognitive dissonance. There's no because we're fully immersed in it in that moment. Our body can get on board with it. Our mind can get on board with it, and we can feel into that state and begin to slowly create new neural pathways and a sense of safety in our body around the experience of that thing being true. And you're the one creating it, not the affirmation words that you've written on your post-it note around whatever. So, hopefully that makes sense and answers your question. But it's a whole, it's that difference between, again, moving to, oh, this thing outside of me is going to help me to create it, to actually in this moment, right here, right now, I am the co-creator of this.
Yeah, it's like that one's a big one. I think when it became really popular I think The Secret really piqued the interest of that as well. It was kind of building up prior to that as well. I was speaking to one of my cousins the other day. We were talking about, when all of this came, as I got introduced to all of this, I suppose like my peak interest of it was like when it went viral with The Secret. But prior to that, I'd read The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn and Neville Goddard books, and all those like old school, ones that then they kind of tracked how it actually came back to the present moment. And even Law of Attraction, I don't even know if you remember this as well, because like prior to that blowing up, do you remember Noel Edwards? Is that what his name is? Edmonds. He's a TV game show host.
Yes.
And he had this new program, because he'd had that big Saturday night program. Yeah. And then he disappeared for a while, and he came back with this, I don't know, with the boxes, I can't remember the name of the program, but he was starting to talk about cosmic ordering. And there was this whole new thing that before, it was like the kind of the terminology it was used before it became Law of Attraction. So people were kind of getting into that as well. But of course, the mainstream just called him a quack and crazy, as they always do when you're like happening on something that's going to like radically shift everyone's life. But do you remember those days of like different, I mean, what were the earliest books that kind of introduced you to all this way of thinking? Who were like your early teachers and things like that?
So for me, it was two. It was The Secret, and when that first came out, and it was like, oh my gosh, like that was my first introduction to like the Law of Attraction. And then I remember, then I read Think and Grow Rich by Esther and Jerry Hicks, and then I kind of, so I'm one of the, like, if something interests me, I'm a bit of a science geek, so I love the world of spirituality and ancient wisdom, but I also love how does this work from a scientific perspective. So I spent years, and still do to this day, researching and studying all these different things. And Bruce Lipton, it was another one, when I read The Honeymoon Effect, a fabulous book, by the way. It's based on relationships, but the foundation of it is around law of attraction and creation. And I think that what I've learned over the years and what I've seen over the years is there's a very big difference between manifestation and conscious co-creation. And manifestation, The Secret at its time, it was perfect for the time that it came out. But the world has evolved, our understanding has evolved, the levels of consciousness that we rise up to have evolved since then. And the idea that your thought, thinking is the thing that your thought creates and brings all of the stuff to you. It's not the whole truth. It's part of the equation, and it can create very much a victim mentality in people, because there was a period of time when I was teaching money mindset programs that I had people come in to work with me who were so afraid of their own thinking, because they believed if they thought like negative things, then all of this stuff was going to happen to them. And it's like, when you think about it, we think around 60,000 thoughts every single day. And I don't know about you, but some of the I have some wacky thoughts that go on inside my mind. And I'm like, where on earth did that come from? And if it were the case that every single one of those thoughts were bringing stuff to me, like my world, all of our worlds would look absolutely crazy. And I think that, again, the difference between manifestation can be a very passive thing, where, again, it's like, if I have these affirmations and I manifest this, like the universe is just going to do it and the world is going to do it. And this stuff is going to show up for me. And it's like, again, you're putting your power outside of you. That is a half truth. You are a co-creator. You co-create. It takes action. It takes you moving into alignment and energetic resonance with the thing that you want in order to bring that thing to you. And it's like that difference between like seeing that my thoughts create my world, and I need to change my thoughts in order to have what I want, because we can't change our thinking. Like I say, we think around 60,000 thoughts every single day, 90% of which are the same as yesterday. If we were to spend all of our time trying to change our thinking so that it aligns to the thing that we want, nobody would ever get anything done. And so again, the power lies not in trying to change your thinking, but in understanding what thought is, in understanding the power of thought, in understanding that your brain is constantly trying to make meaning. And within 1/100th of a second, every single thought that you think that you witness creates a chemical reaction in your body, which creates a feeling state. Your world is thought created. We live in an inside out version of reality. So our thought about the world is what creates the world. Like, we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we think it is. Now, we have the power to influence, to co-create what type of thoughts we spend the majority of time in. But the moment we've had a thought, that thought is in the past. And while we're putting our focus and our attention on that thought of, oh, I need to change this thought, this thought, this thought, where are we putting our focus and attention? On the past, on something that's been. And the power that we have is in the present. So, I think there's so many amazing books and research now where quantum physics is catching up with a lot of the stuff that we didn't understand around manifestation, around creation, around thought, around how we create and bring our world into our experience. So yeah, it's a great topic to be able to dive into.
Yeah, it's if I think of, I remember when I read Think and Grow Rich, actually, the Napoleon Hill one.
Yeah.
I don't think I've actually read any of the Esther Hicks books. I used to watch hours and hours of them on YouTube, so I feel like I've read it. But I remember when I read that book, and I was reading about 3 books at the same time. I was reading I had like a big thick book that had all of Wallace Wattles' books in as well, The Science of Getting Rich, The Science of Getting Well, all of that kind of thing. I was reading Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, and I was reading the Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And I don't know, but I was just kind of literally like devouring these books at the same time. Probably wasn't even reading them, but especially when I read Think and Grow Rich, I remember just kind of like going through it so quickly because it was like news to me.
Yeah.
I was like, what on earth is this? And I was reading it and just in this like, I can't get this quick enough. And I need to get another copy, because I actually ended up giving the copy away to somebody, because it was someone who was in a job that was kind of being treated really badly, but just couldn't see their way out and couldn't really hear what I was trying to say to them. I'm like, listen, just read this book. You know what I mean? And I hope like what I got from this book, you can get through it and you do what you need to do, because like it was someone who was really smart. But especially when you get into a state of when you're an employee and you're in a bad employment situation and you can't see your way out of the whole thing, it's like, that seems like when you're talking about giving your power away, for instance, you give your power away to a boss, a manager, and if you're unlucky, which like a big majority of people are, you've got someone that's playing a really bad game on you, and is utilizing your life force energy for their ends, and doesn't want to see you win, and will treat you well, and then if it will treat you badly. And then if you don't have a high enough opinion of yourself, or you're not doing anything outside of work to kind of build yourself up, you're going to that person for validation, because that's how we get taught from school, to kind of acquiesce our ideas about ourselves to people in authority, to then tell you that you're no good. And if they're always putting you down, and then of course you've attached your money to that, which then controls how you live your life, like the state of your life, then you're in a real trap then as well. And I can see how it's hard for people to step away and make that separation, because like you've got, I hate my job, but I need the money to pay for all the things. I get it, like that's the way it's been set up, and that's the way it's kind of been set up to kind of keep a lot of people trapped in that, so you can't see any way out of the situation, especially if you're a kind of person who's got ideas about what you want to do, but you can't see out of it because you're in that environment where everyone just acquiesces to somebody who's usually quite unhealed, especially if they're playing a game with you, and really putting you down. I mean, how, for people who are listening to this who are, but it's easy for you to say you've built this business and you've done this, and how do I get out of my situation, because I need that job to pay for all the things, and not everyone can be an entrepreneur. I disagree, but how do you speak to that?
Yeah, really great question. And I'm going to say something that's going to sound really two things that will sound quite controversial. Like the first thing is, every problem that we have, the suffering that we experience, is because we do not know, number one, who it is we truly are. We have a false idea of ourselves, a false idea of our identity, and we're living in a misunderstanding of how our experience of reality is being created. We think the world out there creates our experience of life, but it doesn't. The world out there is happening all the time. People are happening, things are happening, stuff is happening. Our experience of reality is 100% created through perception within us. And so this is why you can have like 5 people go through the same thing, and each one of those people will have a completely different experience of that event, because our world is not created through circumstances out there. Our world is created from our experience of reality within us. And we do not need circumstances to change in order for us to have a completely different experience of reality, of ourselves, and to be in peace. Again, most people look at, there's this problem that I have out there, so what do I need to do to fix the problem? And we're like, that's a false model of the world. If we're looking at the world like that, we're always going to experience suffering. We're always going to experience a lack of feeling our own power. The question is always, who am I? Who am I? And just starting with that question, like, who am I really? Who am I beyond my name? Who am I beyond the idea of myself? What is it that's creating my experience? Because it's like, you can go through, I don't know, so probably most of your listeners have got a phobia. My phobia used to be flying. I used to be absolutely terrified of flying. And I could have an experience of almost a full-blown panic attack of flying on an aeroplane while sitting on my couch in my living room. I could imagine being on the plane. My body would start to have a physical experience of that being true, and I would start to breathe differently and my body would shift. Now, that experience, like, I could create that phobia and have a reaction to that phobia, to that fear, without leaving my living room, without being anywhere near an airport. And the reason being is because our internal world creates. And so it wasn't the plane that I was afraid of. It was my thinking and my experience that I was afraid of. And when you start to see, what is thought? What is creating my experience of reality? That shifts you into a whole different way of being and creates freedom. So much of the person, and again, this is not to slate the personal development world and what goes on, but so much of the personal development world is built on, you need to fix and change yourself. You need to fix and change your beliefs in order to have the thing that you want. But where do beliefs come from? Where do those ideas that we think we need to fix and change come from? They all come from our identity, from who it is we believe we are, and how it is we believe our experience of reality is created. And when we start to see that it's all inside out, that we have a physical experience of life that happens within our body, and that physical experience creates thought signals that are sent up to our brain that creates thinking, visual images that give us an experience. And they then send more signals back to the body to go, oh my God, we need to panic here, like create this feeling. And we're always moving in and out of our experiences of the world and of ourselves. Like, some days I can see myself as a phenomenal businesswoman that's changing lives and doing the work I love, and it's amazing, and woo, I have a great experience. Other days, I can go into a space of, I don't actually know what I'm doing. Why am I doing this work? This isn't going to be very good. Who am I to do this? And I have a very different experience of myself and of the world. We are always moving in and out of these experiences, but it's got nothing to do with the world out there. And it's got everything to do with the experience of reality that's being created through my internal perception. And you know, the biggest shift for me came when I realized that I am not my thinking, I am not my perceptions, that my thinking, my thoughts are not instructions, that I am the witness to my experience. I am the witness to the thinking. I am the witness to the felt sensation. Who I am is way beyond what my logical thinking brain can comprehend. And And that's the place when you can really just start to get present with yourself and begin to understand, how is it that my experience is being created? That's the thing that will set you free, because 99% of people walk around this world terrified of their experience of reality, terrified. And when people can learn that there is nothing they need to be afraid of in the world out there, that they do not need to be afraid of their experience, that they are not who they think they are way more powerful than that, your whole world begins to shift, because you start to see that every single person is living in their own thought-created experience of reality, experiencing a completely different one to you. And your thinking doesn't know about the world. Your thinking doesn't know about what's real and true. Your thinking and your experience only knows what it's been conditioned to believe up until this point.
So true, so true. And it's and like you say, it's when you realize that most people are walking around in this bubble of anxiety and fear and uncertainty, and it's difficult to even kind of communicate to them that anything else is possible for them as well, because it's so real to them. So they'll be like, yeah, it's all right for you, but it's like, it's all right for me simply because it can be all right for you. I'm no different. I've just, turned it over and decided that I'm going to start looking at things like that. And also what you said about the personal development world, there's so much benefit from it, but I do think it needs to pivot now as well, because there has been, and I've been in that space and taken a lot of courses, read a lot of books and all that kind of thing, where you spend maybe too much time just focusing on the pain and focusing on the issue and focusing on I need to remove my blocks, I need to talk about my limiting beliefs, I need to kind of deal with my trauma and all the rest of it. And like there is room for that, but I just think the way that we approach it is maybe needs to change, that instead of like we're sitting there going, well, I'll move this block and I'll be a step closer, and I'll move that block and I'll be a step closer, as opposed to, like you're saying, being in the way that I'm talking about things now is being in the energy of who you want to be. And then as those little things come up, deal with it from that energetic and that higher actualized state, as opposed to little you looking at all the problems and the crap and the trauma and the blocks that you've got. How is that how you're seeing it as well?
Yes, 100%. 100%. And this is, with the entrepreneurs I work with, or those that want to create, more success in their business or their life, one of the biggest kind of obstacles to them creating what they want is that they're stuck in problem solving mode as opposed to creation. And again, this comes from an identity perspective. Like, you get to be who it is that you want to be right here, right now, because it all exists. The only thing that's preventing you from being it now is your idea about yourself and your idea about how your experience of reality works. Again, we're conditioned from this identity of I'm not enough, I don't know enough, I'm not good enough. And so we go out on a journey to create the thing that we want, and we bump up against a block or an obstacle. And sometimes it can be like, oh, actually, I need a different strategy. Let me go and buy this person's strategy. And you don't implement the strategy, like I said earlier. So it reinforces the idea that I'm not good enough. So I must have mindset blocks. Let me go and fix and change myself in order to be good enough to have the thing that we want. And we end up in this cycle of constantly trying to problem solve. Now, the people who are creating what they want are in an entirely different structure. They're in the creative orientation. You can show up and take action to create the thing that you want from the end result of being it now, because your identity is the thing that creates. And so it's like, are you spending your time trying to fix all of your problems in order to create the thing that you want? Or are you spending your time in conscious creation now of the thing that you want? I remember watching, there's so many great examples of this. So Adele, I think most of your listeners will probably be familiar with Adele, incredible singer. And she had an evening with Adele that was on telly here in the UK. And she was, she came out and she was really shaking, and she was talking about, oh my gosh, my anxiety, I have such bad anxiety. I'm constantly like, who am I to do this? I can't believe I'm here. I get so nervous. And she even stopped the song, one of the songs she was going to sing, and asked them to start it again because she was so nervous and so anxious. But guess what she wasn't doing? She wasn't going, I can't go on that stage because I need to go and fix all of my anxiety and figure out what's wrong with me in order to be successful. She was taking action to create the thing that she wanted in spite of how she felt, in spite of the anxiety that she had, in spite of the idea that she's not perfect. Again, we have this, we're sold this idea, and this is what keeps the world of consumerism running, right? We're sold this idea that you will be enough when you have this car, you have this house, you have this experience, you have this, and until you get those things, you're not. So you need to work on fixing and changing yourself until you're good enough to have these things, and it keeps us stuck in this loop. And there are the healing journey is such a powerful journey. I'm always in a space where I'm learning new healing modalities, but you need to be in both. There's the healing journey and the creator's journey. And most people get stuck in, I need to heal all this stuff that comes from and reinforces the subconscious identity of I am not enough. And until that changes, you'll be stuck in this cycle. But you can be in a space of creating, showing up. What would I love to create today? What am I moved to create today? And if there is resistance to the creation of that thing, what is it that I need to do in order to shift the resistance to allow me to continue taking action towards that thing? We don't need to be on this endless journey of trying to fix and change ourselves, like problem solving. We can go into the daily act of creation in spite of how we think, in spite of how we feel, when we learn to recognize our thoughts and our feelings are not who we are. I am not my thought, I am not my feeling, I am witness to that.
Totally powerful. And when you were speaking about that, it just reminded me of meeting someone, this 6-7 years ago. I was in India one time, and only the one time actually. I'm making out that I'm there all the time. But I remember bumping into somebody with a friend who'd just done a rebirthing process or something like that anyway. But they just looked so broken. I was just and this was someone who'd kind of pretty much given up their life in the Western world and gone to move in India, nothing wrong with that. But what they'd done and what they were doing was spending their time going from workshop to workshop, process to process, rebirthing, past life regression, this kind of, and in this endless cycle of trying to pull all of these things out in order to get to this magical place. And for a long time, that's what that whole industry, and it's thrived as a result of keeping everyone just consuming all of the fixes that never really solves anything. It just keeps you in the space of the fix, or it puts you in an energy where you're avoiding the thing. But none of them are about empowerment, like you say, get into the state of creation, and then as the bits come up, then just kind of pull the peg out the road as you're moving past it, as opposed to just sitting there trying to go over and over the thing. And I always remember that person. I was just because I was a seeker at that time, and I still am, but I'd like to believe that I'm doing it from a different point of view now, because I just remember seeing them and just thinking, it just looked like they've been doing it for a long time, and they were probably going to spend the rest of their days hunting different modalities to clean up their crap before they got to, and maybe they don't even realize, it was a question that I realized that I didn't ask at the time, but it's a question I've got from them now, who knows where they are, is where are you trying to go? They probably didn't even have a destination. All they were thinking about is, this is my problem when I need to deal with it. This is my problem, I need to deal with it, without having a destination of what you're trying to do. You've probably got a million stories like that yourself as well.
Yeah, so I see so many people get stuck in that cycle for years. It's heartbreaking, and it's done from good intentions. And like you say, most people don't recognize that they're in it. We don't recognize that, and I can speak to my own experience of this. There was a period of time where, when I first was in the space of very much teaching about mindset, there was a period where I had some stuff going on in my life, and I would spend hours and hours journaling, trying to fix myself, figure out what was wrong with myself, figure out how I needed to change myself in order to then, because why was this happening to me? Why can I not shift out of it? Why can I, knowing what I know, why can I not create what it is that I want to create? So there definitely must be something wrong with me. It's definitely me. I definitely need to fix and change myself. And again, it's like this self-fulfilling loop of, this is the identity that's creating this idea that who you are is not enough. And that identity, that idea of yourself has been conditioned since the minute you were born, by society, by the way that we're taught life is, by who it is that we're taught we are. And we live out of that subconscious identity. And then the personal development world, we can sometimes get stuck in that loop of, oh my God, yeah, this person's saying I do need to fix and change my beliefs because I'm not good enough with these beliefs that I've got, or I need to fix and change this about myself. I need to become a disciplined hustler, or whatever the like buzzword is. And we get stuck in this loop of, I am not enough, I am not enough, I am not enough. Please, I need to fix myself in order to be enough. And you know, and it's so, people get stuck there for so long. And if you are spending your time thinking there's something wrong with you, thinking that you need to have something or do something before you can be successful and create what you want, if you are spending all of your time and money going from course to course to course, program to program to program, not seeing the results that you want, then those few things are some of the indicators that you're stuck in this loop. And now I am always learning, like yourself, always learning, always growing, and I love investing in courses and programs to constantly evolve myself. But the difference now is that comes from knowing who it is that I truly am, and asking, how can I expand more of that? How can I fall more fully into myself? How can I see more of who it is that I truly am? As opposed to, I'm not enough, I need to fix and change myself in order to be better, in order to be different. And it's like that, asking yourself that question of, we've forgotten who we are. We have forgotten who we are. And the moment we begin to wake up to, wow, I am the conscious creative power and force of the universe. I am a co-creator of the experience of the world. Like, I am limitless, abundant potential. I am powerful beyond belief. I have the ability to create and experience anything I desire within my world. And there's some resistance at times that's preventing me from being able to see that. And like you said, I love that analogy of, you know, pulling the peg out of the road as we go along. It's like, what is it that I can step into to allow me to do that with more ease?
How can I top that? so powerful, so strong, and so true. Is, yeah, there needs to be a real pivot on everything now. Before I let you go, can you just talk about what you're doing now, what programs you've got, and also where people can reach out and find you?
So there's a couple of different programs that I run. One is Business Through Being. So it's for those who are stuck in a space of wanting to create a business that they love, or they've been in business for some time, but they're stuck in this loop of seeking and searching, trying to fix and change themselves. And it's about creating a business that you love from the inside out, from who it is that you're being first, not a one-size-fits-all strategy. And then I have something really exciting that I am now about to launch, and it's called Reality Recoding. So it's a process of everything that we've just talked about. How is it that you step into a space of really igniting your own personal power, seeing the truth of who it is that you are, and then creating a different experience of reality from the place of, this is who I already am, as opposed to, I need to fix and change myself. So it's learning the steps of how to wake up to your true power as a creator, and then the process of consciously creating what it is that you want to see in your life. So I'm really excited about that. And I have, if anyone wants to learn more about sort of the work that I do and what I've been talking about, you can go to my website, and I've got an incredible free training which is called Reality Recoding. You can find it at louisedanielle.com/RRC, and that will be it's a powerful training that will walk you through step by step how to experience and take yourself through the process of everything that we've been sharing today.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And have you got any social media, or is that the best place for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, so Louise Danielle on Instagram. I do have Facebook and LinkedIn and other social medias, and YouTube as well. So you can reach out to me on any of those. I'm not as active on Facebook, but you're best to friend request me as opposed to follow my business page, because I don't tend to do that on there. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. And, you know, ultimately, if there's anything here that you're unsure about, or anyone wants to ask me any questions, then feel free to message me, because, you know, I truly am so passionate about helping people to see the magic of who it is they truly are, because the moment that you do, your whole experience of yourself and the world changes. And like from the work that you do, you know, the more people that wake up to the magic and the power of who it is they truly are, to their ability to create, the more love and abundance and higher energy resonance spreads across the world.
It's going to be world changing. That's the idea.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for our conversation today. It was totally amazing. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Louise, for guesting on this episode, and thank you for listening. You can find out more about me on my website. It's carolmaywhittick.com, carolmaywhittick.com. Also, if you're ready to embody your higher energetic resonance, follow the link in the show notes and join the free week-long journey. 3 steps closer to being the woman of your dreams. If you want to connect on social media, you can find me as Carol May Whittick on Facebook and Kazmic, Cazmick, on Instagram. Also, do tune in to Her Inspirations, Higher Energetic Resonance Inspirations, the sister podcast to Her Conversations. So until next week, have a great one. Bye.